Member for Perth.
Yes. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am deeply honoured and humbled to stand here today representing the community of Perth. I want to thank them for the unique opportunity to represent them. I want to acknowledge the Wadjuk people and their elders past and present, on whose lands we meet today and every day this Parliament meets. I also want to acknowledge my predecessor, Eleni Evangel, who gave 4 years of public service to the local community. While we are from the opposite sides of the political fence, we did work together in the interests of the community, and I genuinely wish her all the best. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am an optimist. I'm here because I believe in the capacity of community to come together to drive social change and improve the lives of people. I've seen this in my own community of Perth, an incredibly connected and inclusive community where people consistently show a genuine concern and care for others. There are so many different groups creating real and positive change at a local level. The P&Cs, environment groups, precinct teams, local advocacy organisations, they're all bound together with a common purpose to make people's lives better and create a stronger sense of community. I thank them for their efforts and for allowing me to be part of it. It is also why I am Labor, because of the real power of collective action. I am Labor because I value fairness, equality, justice and inclusion. I am Labor because I believe in a fair day's work for a fair day's paid and in safe and secure conditions, where people have the right to collectively organise and protect their rights, where everyone has an equal opportunity to education and realise their full potential, where we do not judge a society on how well the 1% prosper, but how our most vulnerable are treated. In this rapidly changing world, people are genuinely more worried about their future and what it means for their children. This change is reshaping the way people think about their world and their place in it. The fragile nature of current relations between countries, the random reach of terrorism acts, and the uncertainty of the current economic environment have reframed how all of us see our sense of security, both at home and afar. The rapid changes in technology are dramatically recasting our jobs environment. Technology is the disrupting agent of the 21st century. And with this disruption to industry comes the creation of new roles and the transformation of existing jobs, requiring new skill sets while also making other jobs redundant. And this creates uncertainty. And the incredible expansion of mobile phone technology and the use of social media and peer-to-peer platforms is also significantly reshaping how all generations interact with each other and how information is shared, reshaping traditional concepts of relationships and even community. Change is inevitable and is unstoppable, but we should never dismiss the genuine fears and concerns that accompany this disruption. What we need is the type of political leadership that listens and generates solutions with our local communities to respond to this changing landscape. Ultimately, we all have a choice about the type of political leadership we pursue. The first is a cheap populist option. Those leaders who prey on and perpetuate our worst fears, who exploit division in our community and promote the fear of difference. We know this: fear breeds fear. These leaders offer soundbite grabs that do not address the causes of complex policy issues facing our community. In this regard, we should not be surprised by the rise of the likes of Donald Trump. Another type of leadership offers something different. Leadership that seeks to understand people's concerns and the causes of those fears, has honest, open and upfront conversations about those issues and works to take people on a journey about the potential solutions. This type of leadership brings out the best in people and in human nature to provide a positive vision for our future. I have always aspired to deliver this type of leadership as an elected member of local government and now in this place. And I urge that this type of leadership is more important if we are to address a critical issue that we now face, and that is a genuine feeling of people being disenfranchised and holding deep cynicism about politics, about government and the Parliament, regardless of what side of politics you sit on. We must confront this uneasy truth that many people have lost trust in our political process and in our role here in the House. Let's face it, people lose trust when they switch on the TV and see the bickering in Parliament. They are despondent about negative politics. People lose trust when they see politicians using taxpayer funds to fly to polo or sporting matches and wonder how one rule applies to ordinary workers and yet another standard appears for politicians. People lose trust when they see promises made and then thrown out the door. This was no more apparent to my local community when the Max Light Rail project, which was promised to be fully funded, fully costed, was simply discarded by the former government. And people lose trust when they feel elected officials have a sense of entitlement. Just because we are elected to a role does not mean we should feel that we have the automatic right to all the potential privileges that that role may bring. As a result, we have a big job ahead of us to rebuild the people's trust. And if we are to raise our community's hopes, what we can deliver, then we must raise the standard in politics. And we must raise the level of public debate, away from the heavily crafted spin that simply turns people off. I am not so naive to think that this does not mean a robust democracy or debate in Parliament, but I genuinely believe we must shift away from petty politics. And I would argue, to achieve this, we must actually aim to go beyond community expectations about the kind of elected representatives that will serve their concerns and needs. In short, we need to aim higher. Or as the 900-year-old philosopher Yoda once so wisely advised, do or do not, there is no try. I know this can work because this is what we achieved during my tenure at the City of Vincent. I was proud to be part of a team that shifted the culture of the council to openness and accountability to our community. Vincent was ranked third last in 2010 among Perth councils, based on an independent survey of ratepayers. As the new mayor with a great team of young councillors, we worked hard to set higher standards of transparency, accountability and integrity in decision-making to rebuild our community's trust. Vincent was the first council to have an online gifts register, staff travel register, councillor interest register, and still today is the only council to have a developer contact register for councillors. And yes, we even had a ban on councillor and mayoral travel. And in the strong interest of bipartisanship and pursuing the common good, I did regularly publicly back the previous local government minister's first efforts on transparency reform. I am incredibly proud that we turned around Vincent, that in 2016 it was rated as the #1 council in the same survey out of 26 councils, including Best Governing Organisation. For this reason, I welcome the Speaker's commitment to raising standards in Parliament. And I strongly welcome the Premier's agenda to get the budget back in order, in particular to freeze MLA salaries so we can lead by example as we seek to repair the Liberal National Government's debt. This is the right start, but we must all pitch in. Of course, this is not the only challenge that we face. I understand that every West Australian has the right to receive quality healthcare when they need it, and that it is a primary obligation that a state government must deliver to ensure trust and confidence in our hospitals. I know this from first-hand experience. In 7 years, I lost my mother, father and sister, with my mum and sister in and out of hospitals due to cancer. I have the utmost respect and admiration for all those who work on a day-to-day basis in our hospital system. But we must never allow again another fiasco such as the failed oversight of the Perth Children's Hospital, as this weakens the trust in our healthcare system. We also know that educating our children for the new economy is a must. It was unacceptable that poor planning has left our high schools overcrowded, and education cuts have affected the quality of teaching our children receive. We will fix that by restoring education assistance in our classrooms and re-establish an inner-city local intake high school. So once again, we can cater to the needs of the growing number of inner-city families where we know the real demand and growth in the student population is. But clearly, the most evident and pressing issue in our state has been the end of the mining boom and the failure to plan for jobs into the future. We were hit hard, and nowhere has this been more apparent than in my own electorate. You only have to look at the city, where precincts have endless vacant shops, in fact so bad that only recent vacancy rates reached 16%, double the rate at the time of the GFC. Nothing is more important to a person's worth, their confidence, their self-esteem than a decent job. This is why we have a critical responsibility to drive jobs growth. But also be very clear, our economy needs a broader horizon rather than just relying on the resource sector for jobs and investment. And for my electorate of Perth, this means unlocking the full potential of our city and inner city areas. Our city has real potential to grow as an education hub for international students to study and live in. International students and their visiting families bring more than $1.3 billion a year to our city, but as Study Perth reports, WA is struggling to retain our share of international students against the eastern states. This is why it is critical that we must deliver on our promise to invest more in marketing our education institutions, backed by smarter strategies, and improving the experience of students who come here to learn. Similarly, this state has lost its way with how we market our capital city and our world-class tourism attractions in Western Australia. We genuinely need to reinvigorate and invest in a clear and articulate brand for our state, which imaginatively and smartly captures the essence of why tourists should experience Western Australia's uniqueness. There is huge potential, and we must harness this. And I strongly back Labor's $425 million investment in tourism, including critical new funds for the Perth Convention Bureau to attract new business confidence to our city. We need to do this if we are serious about diversifying our economy and creating new jobs. And finally, we need to throw ourselves behind a key engine room of the WA economy, and that is small business. Small business has been doing it incredibly tough, yet it is critical to the health of our economy. Nearly half of all jobs created in Western Australia are in the small business sector, yet the statistics are surprising and startling, with the ABS demonstrating that 60% of new small businesses will collapse in their first 3 years. But small business is more than just an economic provider of local jobs. It is what creates life in our city, Those small business operators are a defining feature of a main street or a town centre that give it a unique sense of place for both residents and tourists alike. I will continue to champion small business, as I did in my previous roles as the founder of the Beaufort Street Network and the Mayor of Vincent. It's also less known that I actually co-owned and ran a small business myself called Bailey and Carey, an event, party and wedding coordination for 2 years. I had to move on upon the realisation that A, I was a perfectionist in organising events and was spending my own money to achieve the ultimate party. B, I could no longer deal with bridezillas and groomzillas. And C, no one really appreciated a Star Wars wedding theme. But I have to say my credentials were pretty good. And in fact, at least one member of Parliament can vouch for my skills, given I organised her wedding. Thank you, Sue Ellery. I do say this seriously, though. We must seize every opportunity to cut red tape. But even with all of this, we cannot expect small business to grow in our city if no one is there and there is no real activity on our streets. Across Perth and certain precincts, including East Perth, West Perth and even parts of the CBD, there is little life on the streets, what planners call vibrancy and ultimately livability. Imagine the experience of a resident walking out of their apartment on Adelaide Terrace, or a tourist leaving the Hyatt or Richardson Hotel. What sort of immediate city experience awaits them? We need to do better. And that is why I'm calling and organising a Perth City Summit to drive new ideas, new energy, new momentum, where small businesses, property owners and residents can come together to make this happen. I find it a missed opportunity that our city does not have distinct tourism precincts like other world cities that have their own identity with a clear brand and marketing opportunities. I will champion the renewal of our city to deliver a better life for our residents and, more critically, economic activity and new jobs. Can I have an extension, please?
Extension granted.
As the electorate with the city at its heart, I cannot make my first speech in this place without addressing the issue of urban planning and how it shapes our community and economic future. It is critical to the future health of Perth. We must stop the urban sprawl. We cannot afford the economic, social, environmental costs of unlimited expansion. I strongly support higher density targets with more high-rise residential apartments in the heart of the city. It is critical for housing diversity and affordability. The research also shows quite clearly it will drive more economic activity. But we have a long way to go. When there is opposition to density, it is often for a legitimate reason. What people are seeing built is sometimes disgraceful. Poor design, with poor light and little natural ventilation, and worse still, with minimal green or livable outdoor space. If we are to stop the urban sprawl, then we must address the density question once and for all and demand quality outcomes. This means we must do density well, create stronger benchmarks for developers to make sure that we create genuinely livable, innovative, sustainable buildings and apartments which create real communities where people want to live. Now look, I know this is not the Academy Awards, but I do have a lot of thank yous. I stand here today because of the incredible team of people behind me, and they endured as much as I did during a tough and deeply personal campaign. I am proud that we ran only a totally positive campaign in the seat of Perth, backed by genuine people power. Thank you to my campaign director, Katrina Campbell-Fraser, campaign organiser, the amazing Emma, and my campaign manager. A great team of workers, Patrick Ashford, Sam McLeod, Amy Stoke, advisors Megan Amwell, Anne Burns, Kay Hopkins, fundraising guru and self-declared Liberal, Leslie Thomas, and support team, Jimmy Murphy, Marcel Anderson and Nigel Wilson. I want to thank the former member for Perth, Diane Warnock, for her insightful advice. And of course, the extraordinary volunteer and love of Mama Comrie. Thank you, and I know it's unusual, but I do have a housemate. I want to thank my flatmate, Beth Kirby, who had to flee more than a few times during the campaign from the house. When dishes stacked up, my campaign clothes piled up and developed a life of their own, and campaign meetings took over the dining room. I also want to sincerely thank United Voice and the Prison Officers Union for their support, and all of the ALP office, including Patrick and Linda. And to all my supporters, friends and campaign volunteers who attended my fundraisers, door-knocked and letterboxed in the heat of summer and made calls on behalf of myself, many of whom are here in the gallery tonight, and too many to thank, my sincere and absolute thanks. It is not just the months of campaigning that brings me to this point. Politics feels like a long journey. I want to thank my good friends since university days, Ros Harley, for her lasting and loving support. And to my bold mentor, sanity and regular keeping my ego in check, and great friend Sue Ellery, thank you. I also recognise the person who gave me my first job in politics, now retired MP Ken Travers, and the MPs along the way who have absolutely supported me, Alana McTiernan and Rita Safiotti. I also want to thank my friend Daniel Pastrelli. I once served for Mark McGowan as his staff member, and in his duties for our state's 175th anniversary, where I do remember we made some very shonky coins that I suspect now are rusting in people's drawers. However, I am deeply, deeply honoured, and it was a tight budget, but I am deeply honoured now, 13 years later, to be his parliamentary secretary in the 40th Parliament. Thank you, Mark. I come to the end of the speech, but back to the theme that I started at the beginning, about raising the standard in politics. They say the biggest influences in your life are your parents, and this is very true for me. I am deeply grateful for all the opportunities that they gave me, which they were never to experience. They are no longer with me, but I honour their memory every day. My father always said to me about politics, one day you're a rooster, the next day you're a feather duster. And at the heart of this is a very simple idea. Never take people for granted. Never feel entitled about what you do or the role that you serve. And never develop a sense of arrogance. Always show kindness and empathy to all those you meet. Every person has a story. Don't interrupt, but listen. People want to be heard. I will hold these words true every day that I am honoured to be the member for Perth. I know there are many people in Perth who never voted Labor in their lives, but put their trust in me based on these values, as have so many Labor voters and supporters. This is my single promise. I will work every day to honour that trust. Thank you.